Hello and welcome to a special edition of the D1Baseball Podcast. I am your host, Michael Patrick Rooney, and as always, today's podcast brought to us by our good friends at S2 Cognition. S2 Cognition delivers a revolutionary approach to helping athletes understand how in-game decisions impact their performance from the youth levels all the way to Major League Baseball. So thanks again to our friends at S2 Cognition. Today, I am joined by the Thomas Edisons of D1 Baseball, the founders, the great Aaron J. Fitt, the great Kendall J. Rogers. And gentlemen, we have a special guest, Jay Johnson, the fairly newly minted head coach at LSU. Jay, so I'll start with this. Is it true you've been at LSU 16 months? That doesn't feel real to me.
Yeah, I don't have the date, but yeah, it's been a fast 15 or 16 for sure.
Seriously, you've packed it in. Incredible.
Been a whirlwind.
Yeah, it's good to see you guys. I think the only time we're all together is when we're in Omaha. So,
yeah,
good to be on with you.
Yeah. Well, the good thing about those 16 months is LSU fans are very patient. So that kind of dovetails nicely with you.
Absolutely.
They're certainly excited. We like that. We like excited fans, Jay, right?
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Honestly, I don't think you could ask for better, when you talk about supporting college baseball, and you guys have done so much for trying to push it forward and make it a bigger deal. It's certainly a big deal here and makes it the best place in the country to coach.
Before we start the firing range, Jay, on you, Fitzy, your bias sign behind you, is that LSU fans that gave you that term, or was it a different SEC fan base?
It was actually Kendall's beloved Texas Aggies way back.
Was it really?
Probably 15 years ago. Some Aggie fan got mad at me and called me biased with a T. And my coworkers got a kick out of that. And that sign, Connor Glassy made that sign. It's been here ever since.
Runes, I will not repeat what LSU fans told me about Fitt. So just putting that out there.
Yeah, that's off the record stuff there.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, they probably called you. You're like Jay, Fitzy. Like technically you're a Yankee, but you've been a Californian, and now you're a Carolina hipster. That's you and Jay share that in common. You guys have lived in different parts of the country now.
Well, yeah, and back when Jay was at San Diego, I'll never forget it. I was so excited. I think they had the ABCA convention out there one year, and I was going to play golf with Coach Johnson and Eric Valenzuela, and then Jay big timed me. I heard all these stories about Jay's game. He no-showed.
There's actually a good story behind that, which you didn't even pick up on. I was actually speaking at the convention that day, so
big time. You big timed me. That's the definition of big timing.
I'll tell you what. You come down here and cover us. I know you and Kendall have to arm wrestle for that, but I'll make up that round of golf for you.
All right, you're on.
That's awesome.
Jay, I'm kind of curious. Like, of all the places you've been, we were kind of talking earlier about being at San Diego, Reno, Tucson. Like, what's the first thing in Baton Rouge that you learned, or like whether it was like food or culture or something that you're kind of like, well, that's really interesting, because we all know, like, we all love Louisiana, but it's like one of the more interesting places in America, right?
Yeah, I think the first thing that stood out is, we opened up our inter squad games. And so our first team practice last year, we're in the middle of a drill, base running at second base, and I'm like totally locked into what's going on with the team. And people are telling me like, hey, a bunch of people are going to show up for this. And I'm going, all right, we'll see, what's up. And I'm like in the middle of the practice doing all this stuff. Then we're breaking like 10 minutes before we're going to play. And I turn around and there was like 1,500 people sitting up there, and I had no idea. So our fans are awesome. Like, and in this fall, it's been great. Obviously, we're excited about our team, but I think we've had 7 scrimmage games, and there's been a high number of them at each one of them.
That's awesome.
I want to follow up on that. The transition from being, a West Coast guy to being at LSU, what's it like being a celebrity in your town? I mean, like Coach Manero used to talk about this, going out to dinner and people would come up to him. I mean, I'm sure you're probably getting a taste of that too. And just your stature in the community and also, dealing with, we kind of joke about the fan expectations, but we all know that's a pressure cooker job. I mean, it's one of the 2 probably pressure cooker jobs in the country. How has that gone so far? How are you adjusting to that new reality?
Yeah, I love it. Honestly, I wouldn't have it any other way because you can't have it both ways. If you have indifference, you're not supported at the level that you need to. And I think what I've learned about the people of Louisiana is, you mentioned the word blue collar earlier. That's what it is. And so I think they appreciate work. I think they appreciate attention to detail. I think if I'm trying to convince them of anything, is there's not one of them, as much as they care about the Tigers getting back to Omaha and winning a national championship, they don't care about it as much as I do. And I have that reflected in how our staff works, how our players work, how we represent school. And I think we're off to a really great start with that. I've had nothing but positive, really proud of what we did last year with the team that we had, and obviously recruited well. And we're off to a good start. And so I'm enjoying that part of it, whether it's being out at dinner or walking through Tiger Stadium on a football Saturday and taking pictures with people and really, having them behind what we're doing. And it's really exciting to be a part of that.
Hey Jay, you alluded to your staff a second ago, and so again, it's crazy. You've been at LSU for 16 months or so, and you've already had to redo your coaching staff. Now, based on the profile of LSU's program and what the excitement you guys are generating, that's part of the deal, right? Like, Dan Fitzgerald becomes the head coach at Kansas, and Jason Kelly becomes the head coach at Washington, and so like. The thought is, man, that's a gut punch. Well, you go and take a major league pitching coach in Wes Johnson. He's, coaching the pitchers for the first place Twins. Now he's coaching it for LSU. And then Josh Jordan, who has come over from Duke. I mean, Duke has had one of the great turnarounds in college baseball in the last 25 years. And Josh's fingerprints were all over that. So my question is, how is that? I would imagine you guys are having to learn how to work together, just like you and Fitz and JK had. How's that transition? Like, what are the areas? Are you filling different roles with this new staff, or does it feel almost similar to the previous staff?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting. It's honestly like you're repeating your first year in some ways. I will tell you, I'm looking forward to a summer where I'm not the head coach, the recruiting coordinator, the pitching coach, and the director of baseball operations over the summertime. Has been a little bit crazy, but last year, hiring Dan Fitzgerald, he and I had been friends for a long time. I knew how quality a coach he was. Obviously, he had a lot to do with the success of Dallas Baptist. He was connected in this region. Recruiting Texas will be incredibly important for us and helped us really get off to a good start. I've competed against Jason Kelly for years. And I think maybe one of the underappreciated things that he did was the job he did with our pitching staff last year. I mean, we really had to work and piece it together to win 40 games, to finish in the top 4 in the SEC. And he deserves a lot of credit. So I was happy for both of those guys. I mean, they are ready to be head coaches. I can't wait to see the success their programs are going to have. Now, interestingly enough, as I was going through the process of assembling the staff, I was very close to getting Wes here initially and the first time. And so I wasn't even going to circle back on it when Coach Kelly left to go to Washington. I'm certainly glad I did. The way I've explained having Wes here is if you think about college football, and that's going on right now, whoever has the best defensive coordinator, in college football, that's a huge lift for that program. Like, that's how I feel about Wes, with our pitchers and, the improvements that everybody will see right away with how guys are throwing the baseball. It's remarkable. And he's already making a huge impact. How he communicates, how he teaches, how organized he is, how invested he is in the players, and the knowledge base is really second to none. And so I can't even quantify how great I think that's going to be for us. And Mike, you mentioned with Josh, I've always respected people that have had high level of success where it's not easy to have success. And when you think about Duke, you think about basketball and Coach K and national championships and all those. Well, I mean, they got to 2 super regionals in the last 4 or 5 years. They had 3 top 10 recruiting classes. And really what stands out about him is the work ethic. And obviously at the level we're trying to win at and compete at, the recruiting is very intense. And so to have somebody alongside me that works as hard as Josh does has been great.
Yeah, we were talking earlier just about kind of your pathway, being at Point Loma as a head coach, going to Nevada, going to Arizona, now LSU. It's kind of a very unorthodox track going from those three programs to LSU. But like looking at each step of the way to Baton Rouge, like what's kind of one thing that you've learned from each stop about yourself as a coach? Like what at each of those stops, like just whether or not your approach with the players off the field, your coaching on the field. What have you kind of learned about yourself at each of those stops?
Yeah, I think it's every spot's been amazing. I have not had a bad stay anywhere I've been. At Point Loma, I mean, that's where I played. It's right on the Pacific Ocean. It's San Diego. I was a head coach when I was 26 or 27 years old. Was thrown right into the fire of, making all the game decisions, coaching third, recruiting, running the offense. Not a lot of coaches get that kind of training ground. And I think that really, really helped me. And one of the hardest decisions I ever made was actually leaving there to go work for Rich Hill at San Diego because I liked being a head coach. But, being with Coach Hill for 8 years was probably the most important piece of my development as a coach. I think he is as good as anybody in terms of building a program and putting together the pieces, hiring great assistants, obviously having an opportunity to be there with Eric Valenzuela, who's obviously one of my best friends. Like that was a really critical time. And then when I went to Nevada, it felt like it was time. I didn't rush through the San Diego thing. Really proud. We got to the NCAA tournament like 6 times there. And then when I went to Nevada, I thought that was a place where you could win. And there was a blueprint and a model that maybe I could add something to it. And I think what I learned there is, having the right plan is one thing, but having the right plan for the place that you're at is ultimately going to make you successful. And that was a good stop. Honestly, didn't even really want to leave there at that time. I think, we were well set up to be good for several years. And then going to Arizona, that was like a dream job, being a West Coast baseball guy. And obviously, playing for a national championship, getting to Omaha twice, winning the first outright Pac-10 or Pac-12 championship in like 29 years. I'm really proud of what we did there. And that was a tough one to move on from as well, just because of the relationship and the connection of the players. We lost that first game to Vanderbilt in 12 innings, which I think was, one of the best college baseball games in recent college baseball history. And I really believe if somehow we would have found a way to get on top, we would have played for the national title in the 21 College World Series. And then to go from that to here, I think this one was just about challenging myself. You mentioned how maybe uncommon it was for somebody from the to come out here and then dive into the deepest part of the ocean, if you will, and go for it with the best players and the best programs and the best coaches in college baseball. And I'm excited about that. We definitely have a plan. We definitely have a way. We execute that on a daily basis. And getting to do that at a place like LSU, where you have the support that you need to put all those pieces together, is really, really exciting. And it's challenged, but it's been a lot of fun.
I got to say, one of my favorite things that you did in Arizona was the video, the Major League video, because, of course, I don't know if our viewers and listeners know, Major League was filmed right there at High Corbett, right? Or at least part of it was. And so you guys did a great video. And I got to say, your acting chops, Coach Johnson as Lou Brown, that blew me away. I want to know, did you go to acting school, first of all? and secondly, can we expect some kind of an encore performance here in Baton Rouge?
No, that was a one-time deal. Definitely retired after that performance. But I feel like Mike Rooney is like this. Like, there's a few movies when they come on TV, you always stop and you watch them. And so through my childhood, Major League was probably one of those. I got to credit my dad. He actually had like a really good Lou Brown impersonation. So
no way.
Yeah. So, Major League, whether it's Wedding Crashers, Talladega Nights, you guys know all the ones that you always stop and watch when they come. Major League was that one. And that was cool. It was filmed there in Tucson and had some fun with that. Had some players that had really good personalities, on those first couple teams at Arizona.
I've got a less frivolous follow-up, I guess. again, looking back at your previous stops, of course, everyone knows you coached Kris Bryant at San Diego, and I remember spending some time with you and Kris. Even after you had left for the Nevada job, you came back for the Golden Spikes presentation in Dodger Stadium, and just being around you guys, you could kind of see the rapport and everything else, and could tell how much you meant to each other. How much do you think that that player, I mean, the role that he played in your development, and what you were able to do to help him along in his career? I mean, you got a superstar player like that come through, maybe a couple times in a career if you're lucky, right? That had to be a pretty important thing for you.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was unbelievable. Recruiting him, getting through the draft in high school, and then it was like 3 years of just like, you can't do better than that. It's probably how LSU fans feel about like Dylan Cruz, like right now. And so I'm lucky. I've had a couple guys, but with Kris, I mean, you mentioned it, Aaron. Like, one player's decision can change the outlook of a program, or frankly, my coaching career. And I will always be grateful for him. His ability is only matched by the quality of person he is, the character he is. And people ask me all the time, like, do you guys still talk? Do you stay in touch? And it's like, yeah, but I'm not bothering that dude. He has done way more for me than I could ever ask for. And he's a great model to point to for our players of like, hey man, this was the best player, that is a great person, that was a great team leader. I mean, this is the model of what it looks like. So our conversations are pretty simple. He just had twins. So my wife sent them, LSU Tiger pajamas. So his dad, Mike Bryant, sent a picture back like, Coach, they're ready for you. But I think we're going to make these guys golfers instead of baseball players. So,
it is funny because, I mean, people always talk about, oh, this kid's so humble, that kid's so humble. And, that kid is ridiculously humble for as good as he was. I mean, just like getting to know him because his 3 years were the same 3 years I was living in Southern California. So just getting to be around him was just such a treat because he was just the most down-to-earth superstar you'll ever meet in your life. He was unbelievable.
Yeah, we opened with Vanderbilt his freshman year, and his first at bat in college, he singled off Sonny Gray. I think that was 2011.
Yeah, I was there for that game. Yeah,
they had a remarkable pitching staff. And then I think he struck out like 6 or 7 times in a row. And then that's the only time I ever remember him having any difficulty handling college baseball. I think the next game he hit like 2 homers, and we were off and rolling. But great player, great person. And I've been very fortunate kind of at each stop. We've had kind of a marquee guy like that has really lifted our teams to be successful.
Love it. Hey, before I ask Jay my next question, I want to all the listeners out there, we've got a really cool partnership that's on the new side, and that's with the ABCA, the American Baseball Coaches Association. And just want to encourage any coaches out there that are listening, make your plans to join all of us in Nashville for that convention. It is it's the best baseball weekend of the year in many ways. This year, it's going to be January 5th through the 8th, 2023. It's at the Gaylord Opryland in Nashville. The Opryland is actually sold out, and so I'll just pump my hotel, the Courtyard, down the street. So if you want to come hang with Coach Rooney, I'll be at the Courtyard. But that just tells you how quickly this thing is filling up. The ABCA show, it's the biggest and best baseball weekend of the year, like I said. And the guys at the ABCA are telling us this could be the largest, and I would anticipate it will be the largest in the 79-year history of the event. And so get your hotel rooms booked ASAP. And again, I'm talking to the young coaches like a Jay Johnson when he's at Point Loma, a Mike Rooney when he's at Malvern Prep. I get it. There is nothing in your budget that says go to Nashville for the ABCA. Have a beef and beer, have a car wash, sell umbrellas, do what you got to do. It is absolutely worth it. It is the investment you'll be able to make in yourself, the investment you'll be able to make in your team. And again, I say this every time. My favorite part of the convention is that first talk that kicks it off on Friday morning. It's the coach that won the Division I national championship the year before. Fully anticipate hearing Jay Johnson give that talk someday in the next. Jay, I'm going to give you like 6 years before I expect you to. So you might start making some index cards, sooner than later. But again, really appreciate our partnership with the ABCA. These guys do an awesome job, and we're thrilled to be partnered up with them. So, Jay, let me ask you this question. I kind of want to ask you about pitching and shortstop because those are kind of the hot ticket items. But I can't do it because I'm so blown away by the potential lineup that you guys could have. Now I may mess up some of the names, but like Dylan Cross, Braden Jobert. Is Braden back or is he gone?
He is back.
Yep. Trey Morgan, Tommy White, Gavin Dugas. Gavin's back, right?
Back.
Josh Pearson, who I don't know that much about. He kind of flies under the radar, but he's got 20 home runs written all over him. I mean, you guys could hit like 7,000 home runs. And I know your offense, Jay, is way more than that. But my question is this, with those raw materials, and we're missing names, like how do you put this soup together? How do you, what is this lineup going to look like if it all goes according to plan?
It's a good question. And I usually don't like rush those types of decisions. I mean, when we put together how we build the team and how we develop throughout the fall and the year, I always go back to the beginning of like coaches if your players don't know anything. And we go from step 1 to, or step A to Z, if you will, and not jump to ST, that type of thing. And we're just not there yet. I think what we're trying to do is coach them all along to success and then maybe see who's, mental game, mindset, tools, skill set, offensively and defensively rise up and form the best team. Coach Bertman talked about it all the time of putting the best collective team together, the best 9, not necessarily the 9 best players. And I think our team will probably look like that this year. I think there's some nice flexibility relative to left-handed, right-handed, speed, power, solid hitting skills, defense, where it's going to be fun to work it out. And right now, I've always thought you're never as deep as you think that you are. I think this team on a position player side of it, which is exciting for the now and for the future, there's some real, high-end talent for this year. And then there's some real future stars that, are going to be the next, maybe not Dylan Cruz, because I think he's kind of on a planet of his own. But it's exciting to look at how the pieces fit together for now and in the future.
Love it. Hey, Jay, so I'm going to tee you up on our next, our final discussion point, and then I'm going to do a promotion while you're thinking. So any of the 4 of us are going to get to be commissioner of college baseball for the next 12 months. And what I want you to do, Jay, is, and then I'll do my read here. I want you to give us a topic that you want us as, we'll be a 4-headed commissionership. I want you to give us a topic that you want us to dig into right away, whether that's scholarships, NIL, coaching, size of coaching staffs, postseason, whatever it is. Now, while you're thinking of your topic, I want to encourage all the listeners. We are right in the thick of fall report season, and I can make an argument that it's the single best thing we do at D1 Baseball. These fall reports are awesome. It's a great way to turn the page on 2022. I've read the one, Fitzy, you did on Oklahoma State. It was awesome. I read the one that Joe Healy did on Charlotte recently. I can't wait to dig into the one on Evansville. There's one on NC State. Every day there's new fall reports. By the way, spoiler alert, you Arkansas Razorback fans, that fall report is eminent. That one always generates a lot of buzz. So again, we want to encourage everyone to get their subscription to D1 Baseball. Use the code FALL22 at checkout. You'll get 20% off. So that's FALL22, all caps if you want. At checkout, you'll get 20% off. And again, no better time than right now to get a sub to the website. All right, Jay, 4-headed commissionership. What would you like us to dig into here?
Yeah, I got probably 2 things. I think the first thing would be expanding the coaching staff to 5 full-time coaching staff members. I think it sounds like we maybe have some positive momentum to get the volunteer assistant a full-time position. But I think, in terms of running a program and staffing, that doesn't necessarily help the player-to-coach ratio and filling all the needs of the program. So that would be number 1. I would like to be able to elevate to go up to 5. And then number 2 would be make baseball a head count sport where, it's essentially, it's an equal playing field. Everybody gets a full scholarship. I don't know what that number is or should be, 27, 35. But that would be the other one. I think, putting together a team creatively that's something I always like the challenge of, but it would be a lot simpler if it was just about what is the best fit for the player, what is the best fit for the program, and money wasn't a factor.
Jay, let's do the first one, the coaches piece. This was interesting. Someone brought us, I think Rob Vaughn made this point, that there was discussion around. So just to clarify, you're saying 5 paid coaches, head coach, 4 assistants. Everyone can recruit off campus. Everyone can coach the players. Like 5 equal shares, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the recruiting piece and who can and can't go off campus, I think maybe it's because I've had to ride solo for the majority of the summer, the last 2 summers, but I don't even care if anybody can go out to recruit. I just think having 5 paid assistants, 5 full-time coaches, if somebody had to always be on campus, I'd be all for that, because that's a juggling act when you're bringing players in for summer school, trying to get them settled into being here for the first time, yet you're trying to go to Georgia and recruit. I think if you had 5 coaches, even if one of them couldn't go out on the road, you could have all your needs covered. You could have all your positions covered. You could be really engaged with everybody academically, socially. Every need of the program could be filled, I think, if we had that.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's really interesting is I was just talking, actually, Jay, since the last time I talked to you, I was just talking to a couple athletic directors the other day, and there seems to be a lot of momentum on having the ability to let anyone on your coaching staff instruct players on the field. So whether it's like because a lot of these schools that are hiring, just like football, they're starting to hire, either older coaches or younger coaches who are just trying to get on with bigger programs. They're hiring them in analytical roles or, development roles. And there's actually a lot of discussion, a lot of momentum on just allowing all these people to be on-field instructors and having rules on the number of coaches that can go out and recruit. So having like a cap on people that recruit, but no cap on people that can actually on-field coach. And let's be honest. I'm not going to ask Jay to comment on this, but let's be honest. Like we all have heard it. There's plenty of programs out there where these guys are already out there coaching these players at practice. So like, it's not something that's going to happen. It's going to be some huge revelation. Like it's already going on. It's just going to be more official from the NCAA level. So there's a lot of momentum around kind of those two things right now. But the one thing I can tell you guys that I think is an absolute is getting rid of the volunteer position, because there's a lot of concern right now with the NCAA and the NCAA Transformation Committee on lawsuits when it comes to the volunteer position, because there are a lot of these programs out there where some of these guys are literally working at a car dealership and they're going and coaching college baseball. And there's a lot of concern at the NCAA level that eventually somebody's going to get wise and go after the NCAA for essentially having somebody employed for free at some of these programs. And so I think you're going to see the volunteer position absolutely go away. It'll just absorb into a full-time position. But the volunteer role will end up going away more than likely.
Hey, Jay and Fitzy, let me ask you as a follow-up to the question of this, because this is an interesting wrinkle. Any concerns, let's say we go to 5 paid coaches, any concerns that, Mike Rooney is coaching at Malvern Prep University, who just moved to Division I, ironically or miraculously. And so I take my assistant, EJ Moyer, there's a plug for you, Coach Moyer, and I just put him on the road, right? Like he doesn't coach players ever. He's just full-time recruiter. Or maybe I do that with 2 guys. Any Jay and Fitzy, any concern on that? Or like, hey, however you want to strategize in your program, may the best person win. We've got a cap on coaches. It's greater. And so, how people use the resources, go for it. Fitzy, why don't you go first? What's your initial take on that?
My take is what you just said. I think less regulation on that is better. I mean, people can have different roles, and it's up to the individual coaches. If you want to take a job that requires you to just be on the road recruiting all the time, I mean, that's a choice you're making for your own quality of life. And I get I think we should be concerned about coaches' quality of life, but like, you kind of know what you're getting into there. And look, I mean, there's scouts all over the country who are spending hundreds of days a year on the road, getting their Marriott points. Why, what's the big deal if college coaches do the same? Yeah, I have no issue with that. I think programs should be allowed the flexibility to do what they want.
Yeah. What's your take, Jay?
I think, being a head coach, I think I'm always trying to create advantages for our team and our program, and like how you structure everything. I think it impacts winning, losing, the success that you have. And so I just say, let's get as many as we can in here and let programs operate how they choose to operate. If somebody wants to hire a super recruiter or a on the field guru, and go for it and let them run.
Yeah. Hey, let me do one final topic. I think what you said about the head count, Jay, that like we're all in on that, right? More scholarship for baseball players, whether that's head count, just move the number, all of the above. I mean, it's a no-brainer in a lot of ways. So I've been thinking a lot about the postseason recently. It's in the headlines. It's interesting right now. If you look at college baseball, 64 out of 305 Division I teams make it. That's 21% of our teams make the postseason. In the NFL, it's 44%. In Major League Baseball, it's 40% of teams make the postseason. In the NBA, this is kind of ridiculous. 67% of teams make the postseason. And then in the NHL, 50% of teams make the postseason. Now, I don't want to characterize those leagues as idiotic, right? Because there's a reason they're doing that. The way you grow the profile of your sport is you take your best property, the playoffs, and you grow that. And even if Division I baseball shrank to 200 teams, which is, something that could happen, still, 72 divided by 200, if I pumped it up to 72, that's still 36%. So there's a lot there, like, do we like 32 hosts? Do we like regionals? Do we like playing games? All those types of things. Why don't we start with you, Jay? Do you have a strong opinion on this, or?
Very strong, strong opinion on this. I think it was 2019. We didn't make the tournament at Arizona, and we'd won 13 of our last 14 games. We got off to a tough start. I think we lost to UCLA, and they were the number 1 national seed, and then Spencer Torkelson and ASU, like we kind of dug ourselves a hole early in the Pac-12 schedule, but then kind of rallied all the way back. And I really believe had that team got into the NCAA tournament, we could have done something, even as their 5th place team in the Pac-12. There's stories like that every year. I mean,
your Nevada team is one that was heartbreaking.
Right.
Yeah, that was a really good team.
Yeah, and then last year, like think of Ole Miss got left out of the NCAA tournament. They won the national championship.
Yeah.
And so, it's kind of a funny story. We played them in the Super Regional the year before at Arizona, and we won. And the morning they were leaving, I went over to the hotel to say goodbye to my dad. He was staying at the same hotel. I ran into Mike Clement and Carl Lafferty, and I was like, "Hey, you guys are going to win a national title next year." I literally said that to them. And your team is loaded. You knew they were all coming back. And I think you guys ranked them preseason number 1 or something, or somebody did. And think about that. Like, had they not, and they were as close to in or out probably as you possibly could be. And that's an NCAA tournament team. And I just think it gets everybody in that deserves to be in. I don't know if it's 5-team regionals. I don't know if it's like 8 more teams that, the national seeds have 5-team regionals. I think that's an absolute must. I'm glad you brought that up.
Look at Jay Stradamus over here. Listen,
seriously,
after this call, you got to go find, Josh and Wes and tell them, hey, you guys are winning the national championship next year. That's what you got to do, because apparently you got some powers here.
Well,
I don't know
if I'm as nice to my assistants as
the Zen master. he's like the new Augie. He's a Zen master.
That's right.
It's kind of interesting. We talk about the postseason. Like, I was just talking to a couple of coaches the other day about this. That when you look at like the next 5 or the next 6 teams, like I actually feel like from a postseason standpoint, like the next 5 or the next 6 that didn't get in, like you could see those teams making a run. Whereas like past those teams, you're kind of like there is a drop off. Like there is a drop off after you get to 6 or 7. So I like the idea of adding 5 to 7, 8 teams, because I think after that there's a sizable drop off. And the other thing for me, Jay, and I don't know how you feel about this one, but I actually love the idea of turning the postseason into a 3-game series and having more host sites. I think if you're Sherrod Clinkscales at the Indiana State, a couple of years ago, they would have hosted in a 32 host format. If you're a college baseball, we're growing at the pace that we're growing. We're wanting 80s to put more money into coaches, more money into scholarships. You've got to be able to sell that product to more athletic directors around the country. And what way do you do that? It's by having a regional at Indiana State. It's by having a regional in Carbondale at Southern Illinois. So I love that idea.
Yeah, I think I'm on both sides of it. I mean, the whole college baseball traditionalist, whatever you want to call it. I love the regional. Like that is like one of my favorite weekends of the year. You're there with 3 other great programs, great coaches. Some of the best games or biggest wins I've had have been in NCAA regionals. And so there's that part of it. Then there's the side of it of it protects the pitching, which is probably the most important thing. If you go to the 3-game series, it's the same model as you're playing throughout the regular season. I think it would add a week of the postseason, and more college playoff baseball is awesome. So I could see both sides of it. And I've never been one to like worry about what the rules are or what they aren't. Like, just tell me what we're working with, and we'll try to go be good within those. So if you guys think it's a good thing, I think it's a good thing.
I also like that we could start to market pitching matchups. Like I 72 is a magic number for me. Like, we could bring in, we could do 8 teams, do a play-in, like the top 8 seeds. Now, not only do they host all the way to Omaha, but those top 8 seeds, they have a playing game on Thursday night at their place. So that gives them another advantage. In theory, teams have to use their number 1 to advance. I like the thought of leagues not just always going 0-2 and getting their teeth kicked in. And, I like, hey, even if you go 1-2, like, that's really, I don't know. I think that the extra week is a real thing. We all get that. That would be a big leap for a lot of different parties. But man, I think, hey, it's another week of squeeze play. Selfishly, I think that would be amazing. Probably get fired from my day job for that, but that's, we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So, Jay, this was awesome, man. Really, really appreciate it. Good luck with your 1,500 fan fall scrimmages and games. It'll probably be 3,000 by the end of the fall, I would imagine. What's your outside competition situation, Jay, for the fall?
Yeah, we have November 6th. We're going to play McNeese at home. That'll be the Sunday after we play Alabama in football. So the design of that was hopefully to get some of the spillover crowd the next morning for that game. And then we'll go over and play UL Lafayette on November 13th and get on the bus and go over and play Coach Deggs and those guys.
Jay, we're going to help you with that. It's not McNeese, it's MacNeese.
There we go.
Kendall has coached Fitzy and I up on that over the years.
Kendall's the only one who calls it MacNeese, but we all have we've embraced that.
Well, okay. all I know is Justin Hill's a good coach, and they're a really good program.
That's right. Go Pokes.
Chips lately, so
I can also tell you right now there will be more than 1,500 people at the scrimmage in Lafayette, and they will care about that scrimmage.
No,
that'll be a great atmosphere for a fall scrimmage.
I was at a scrimmage last week, and it was like 2 batters into the game, and you can guess where this was if you look at my recent travel calendar. 2 batters into the game, they're already riding the umpire, and a meeting this fall scrimmage that does not count. They're calling him a bozo. I mean, it was awesome.
Love the SEC
hey,
West.
Our fans are doing that in inner squads, and I love them for it.
So great. Very cool. Jay, we'll see you down the line. We really appreciate it. Clearly people super excited about LSU baseball. I mean, there is just an absolute palpable buzz around your program right now. And it's awesome. The bottom line is this: college baseball is better when LSU is not just good, but LSU is prominent, and you certainly have the program headed in that direction in a big time way. So really appreciate it. And we'll catch you down the road, Mr. Johnson.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.